Hello, Methuselahs, and welcome to Lies from the Tabletop, a Vitez podcast. We are back for episode 2. Want to start off with a quick apology. It's been a long time since our first and only episode, but we've been working on some audio issues, and also both of us had COVID in the meantime, but it is great to get back. I'm going to invite in the one, the only, it's Captain Thalco, PJ, the Prince of Liverpool. Welcome back, mate. How are you feeling?
Well, I've still got some symptoms, so if you see me quietly going, then I apologize, and if you hear it, then I very much apologize.
Yeah. It's mad because we were actually together, and you got all of the bad cough stuff, and I just basically lost my sense of smell. And if I wanted to eat a Bobby Lemon, I wouldn't be able to taste it either. So no, it's good. It's good. So do you want to tell the listeners at home what we're looking forward to today, mate?
Oh right, yeah. Well, you did spoil at the end of the last one. We were going to do a deck tech of your own Stanislava, your one and only deck, exclusively play because got kids. But so we're
It's
going
one
to
of
talk
those
about
games, isn't it? That there's such a deep knowledge that it's so hard to become an expert in because there's so many different types of decks. So I just went, sack it. I'm just going to become an expert in one deck.
Well, I remember when you first started, I'd lend you decks, but it was I just started getting back into the game, so I was trying to figure it out, and I had my mate Adam from when I was down south. He gave me a box of his old spares, so I was throwing Assamite decks together. I'd never even knew what Quietus was before, and I was like, yeah, I'll have a go, and you were just like, this is terrible. And
I remember that Assamite deck because it was my first experience of Vitez, and I've got to say that every time I think about that deck, I'm like, I'm glad I'm not playing that deck.
Expert deck builder.
It was a deck that just didn't have any win condition. There was no
Yeah,
way of getting a victory point in it. You'd just be there and you'd be annoying, and then you'd die eventually because someone who actually knew how to play the game would just kill you.
It was basically me experimenting with cards, right? So
Yeah.
I think I had Fame and that in, but one copy, and it's okay, cool. I think there was some loss in there. I think that's why I gave the deck to play, because you're obsessed with the loss meme at the time, at least. So
is this loss?
Is this loss? Yeah.
Well, this is definitely gain. We're on the beers on a little cheeky left.
Are we allowed to say brand names?
Oh, well, if people want to sponsor us, by the way, just get in touch. If you're a beer sponsor, if you're a Vitez sponsor,
two beers a fortnight, one beer a week.
Yeah,
very
someone
affordable.
Sponsor us. Yeah, we have already invested in the podcast. We've invested in a couple of microphones, so hopefully people will appreciate the upgrade in quality.
So you can have some high definition.
Yeah, but I quickly moved from the Assamite deck, didn't I, to go into Patriot Games in Leeds, and I bought myself a little pre-constructed deck, didn't I? And
oh yeah.
It's this little bad boy.
Yeah, this
Stanislava Vote and Bleed for MikeyNoFonts.
It's a deck that's won high level events before you even get out of the box, isn't it?
It's amazing as well because I think that's one of the things I love the most about Vitez is that the game is really accessible. The game is really cheap to get into.
Yeah,
I
was talking about that with somebody today about to mention another game, the Magic the Gathering box sets. They do Secret Layers, and it's over $100, and you get 10 cards, and you're like,
yeah,
they really know how to monetize that game.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, here you can get, well, Zilla's Valleys, I think, were £10 each or something. They'd be more now if they hadn't been reprinted a couple of times, but wow,
yeah, exactly. And I think shout out Black Chantry as well, who just aren't afraid to reprint a card, which is great. And also print on demand coming soon.
Well, yeah, we've got some new stuff just added. Salubri and another one that completely escapes me at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
I'll probably shout it out in about half an hour.
Yeah, in about 20 minutes.
What?
Oh, I don't remember it. Yeah. So I think
Oh,
what we're gonna
barley.
do is we're just
Barley.
gonna go. Oh yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Barley.
Yeah,
Go on,
yeah,
carry
we're just gonna go through the original Stanislava 25 Vote and Bleed just real quick, and then also if I can ask you a couple of questions about it and get your expertise on it, that'd be great. And then we'll go through the changes that we've made to the deck over the past 4 years. 4 years, yeah,
Yes,
and then we'll see where we go with it. But hopefully people appreciate this. If you are listening along and you do want to have more deck profiles, more VTES discussion, don't forget to don't forget to subscribe to us so that you don't miss an episode. But without further ado, let's get into the deck. So here we go. First of all, we got the crypt, and this is the original crypt. We got 2 Heart Mastova, 2 Ingrid Rossler, 2 Mark Decker, who likes to deck his opponents with his +1 strength. We've got 4 Stanislava and 2 Xavier. Xavier's brilliant. Someone who can untap like after he calls a referendum
Gotta love
successfully.
inbuilt reactions.
Yeah, built-in freak drives. Oh, so good.
Spice.
So good. It's brilliant. There's a bunch of masters here. Feel free to pause and have a look on the screen. But there is one card that I do want to highlight. This was a card that I just promptly took out the deck, not because of any other reason other than the fact that I don't understand what it does. And that's Fear of Maquette, a card that comes in the original Stanislava 25 deck. So, Captain Thalco, can you shine a light on this card for me?
Yeah, I believe my advice when you bought the deck is play it straight from the box, but take out Fear of Maquette and put in Scourge of Enochians. And that's what I said to you.
Yeah.
Because I don't rate it. Like, not in this. Like, I think what it
Like,
does.
so when I look at it, I'm like, could this burn my own vampire at
Yes.
some point? Yeah.
Yes. Is the
Right.
answer. Which for me is a big turn off, even if you discard it and someone plays an Airseas Fragment or some janky garbage that's probably out there they can play and get it. But
Yeah.
just generally, it only shuts down Camarilla vampires, which at the time of this being printed, all the intro decks available were Sabat. So if you're in a new group and you pick up this deck, your friends have picked up new decks, it's going to be a dead card anyway. In the larger meta game, princes aren't exactly rare. With 5th edition coming out, it was a slightly more appealing because there were a lot of princes in there. But no, it's just the card in a circle specific, isn't it? So even the new 5th edition decks won't have just the cards in them because there's no like vampires of that high capacity really. So you just it's not very live, like especially right now because Barons are the titles you want to beat, I'd say. So generally, I think it is a bad card. I think it's very good against you. If it was unique, I could see playing it to get rid of it or something. But like, no.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I bring my Stanislava out, a Velena, take a Govern, then a Freak Drive, and and all of a sudden she's on free blood or something like
Yeah.
that really quickly, and then this gets played and boom, you're murked.
Yeah.
Like
Oops.
Fear of Mercat because it's just
Yeah. You're not me, cat. Oh no.
Oh no, I'm a cat head
It'll be
and I've
cat.
been murked.
Oh man.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
I think
classy.
I did look at it in like a Daughters of Cacophony deck because it was powerful against inner circles, and if you're like they don't have any title vampires really, you can put through a few barons in with them or something, but like generally you're just playing untitled low cap guys that you play cards that give them votes. Like there's a card Conductor gives if it you put on a Daughter of Cacophony and it gets a vote for every other unlocked Daughter of Cacophony and itself while it's active. That's pretty cool, but that gives you 4 votes if you got 4 dudes. Someone brings that in a circle, you're behind. So Fear Maquette I thought was quite good there because it can deal with a big, massive threat. But you should be keeping pace with those anyway in this deck.
Yeah,
It
but also
doesn't
it
sit
doesn't
right
have
for
the
me.
potential of blowing up your star vampire.
Yeah, exactly. It can't whack your back, like.
Yeah,
But,
what I want to know is like, the original guy who built this deck, like, how does he sit down with balls that big to play this card?
well, I guess like with
Basically,
this deck is like group 2-3, right? So it would be quite an early in the game when this was defined as a meta call. So it's like a deck that's known, and so this card would be valuable at that time because in that grouping there were inner circles for a lot of clans. So inner circles just cards were probably quite prolific at the time. So that would be why it's there then.
it was probably like a
Whereas,
meta call, wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, this will
interesting.
this will
Yeah,
this will keep me ahead of the Ventru deck that's pulling out Arica because Arica's a big deal, but like not so
yeah,
much anymore. I mean, she's still a powerful card, but like
yeah,
you don't have to plan against her with this.
yeah.
That's another thing.
And I think that's part of parcel of what we're going to be talking about today is like how has this deck got the potential to evolve in the future as well, and like what meta calls have we made to try
Hmm.
and change this deck, and how have we moved it on. So let's talk a little bit then about the political actions that were originally in the deck as well. Lots of different things there. I think one of the key cards that I want to talk about here that was originally in the deck was Parity Shift. For me, it's one of those where running 5 Parity Shift originally, I just found it really clumped my hand.
Hmm.
And so often, if you get your vampire out and then your Verlaine, like so often you're on more pool than your prey anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
And then also you need um you need a prince or a justicar, so it's always comes out after like your second vampire, at which point you've Verlaine twice as
yeah.
well. So you've
But
gained 10 pool on your opponent
I
basically,
think
and it was just
generally,
one of them. It wasn't really live.
yeah. But in this style of deck, like the Ventru Law Firm list plays sort of better with it, I think, because you go like Alzila's Valley, Verlaine, Zilla's Valley, Verlaine. Although a lot of Ventru Law Firm lists run Blood Doll to get the blood slowly and manage it for parity shifts, and you can run like 6 of them. But generally, it's like I'll push myself down. So even if you're Verlaining, you're still not necessarily like affluent with pool because you're spending it immediately with Zillas. But I guess this list only has like 4 of them. You've got Info Highway and stuff as well, obviously to get out with, and you can play Mastercards like Papillon and that's not in the list originally, I don't think. So,
No,
but
no.
Monastery of Shadows, things like that.
Yeah,
You can spend that moolah elsewhere.
yeah,
But like
precisely.
the biggest issue with this is the lack of Prince and Justicars, right?
Yeah, immediately.
Basically,
And
you want
also
to
I found myself relying on it. Like
yeah,
I would so often I would play a parity shift, thinking if this doesn't go through, I'm just dead. Like
yeah,
I need this pool gain, and so there's been other ways where I've made the deck try and gain its pool back in just like different more subtle ways, which doesn't need the approval of everyone else at the table
yeah.
saying yes, I will let this Stanislava deck do what it wants to.
I'll vote it through if I
Yeah,
get all 3 of the pool. You've
yeah,
got one vote.
exactly,
I'll
exactly.
vote for it.
It's
You've
just
only got
like
one vote. That's just
yeah.
so
Like, hopefully, because you've got like Stanislava and then you got to just the car out, like you should be winning most votes. But there are certain situations where you sat in between a wall and another stealth bleed deck, and they're just going no to everything
yeah,
as well. So yeah. Anyway, that's another thing that we've considered later. Uh, Action cards, 7 Govern the Unaligned, great card. Kind of just speaks for itself, really. But we've
yeah,
even changed this up as well, which we'll see a little bit later.
yeah.
And hopefully this little bit of tech people might approve of. The action
Before we,
modifiers.
can I just say
Go
something
on,
more
yeah.
about parity shift? I just
Oh
want to
yeah,
say to people out there when someone says to you, "I'm going to parity shift your prey because I need the pool," like that's a desperate situation for that person. They really need the pool. So if they're saying, "I'll parity shift your prey if you vote in favour. You don't then go, I want one of the pool. No, they're taking 3 off your prey. Okay, the amount of times I've seen people go, what am I getting from it? What are you getting from it? Probably an oust, like which is 6 pool, and I see people
Yeah,
vote it down, and it's like, why are you voting it down? Like,
it,
oh,
it's one
you're
of
playing
those
it.
like
It's like, no, you're gonna oust someone and gain 6 pool, but you won't vote for it unless I give you 1. Are you mad?
yeah. It is one of those weird cards, and that was one of the things that I've later tried to cut. And I'm sure we'll talk about this a bit more later, which is about how there are certain cards which your opponent can get something out of, and I just hate that. I just hate that from a card. Like, why am I spending actions that directly benefit you, or
Mm,
like that I have to compromise on? Why is my card only 33% as powerful as it could be because I have to negotiate? When
yeah,
I could be doing something else, when this card in my hand could be just a straight up chaosy,
but the
like,
other thing is, though,
something like that.
would the chaosy resolve in that situation is the difference,
Yeah,
isn't it?
obviously it's a
Because
it's a bad example, but like it
like,
could
you
be
have
like a
having that negotiating power is often
yeah.
quite strong when people are.
Yeah, I could just be bleeding. I could be governing backwards. I could be like freak driving. I could be setting myself up really well to, all that kind of stuff instead of trying to negotiate with someone who doesn't understand board state. you know. But yeah, so there is that. So yeah, some action modifiers here. Um, force march, freak drive, instantaneous transformation. It's so nice playing with a deck that essentially like for every 10 everyone else has, you get about 3 or 4 10s.
Yeah, I think
It's amazing.
like I think I phrased it of because when we played on Lackey during lockdown, I remember someone saying to me like, "Why are you always playing so many multi acts? You only play guys at Fortitude." And my answer was, if I'm investing 11 or 10 pool in a vampire, you better be sure I'm going to do some actions with it. Like spending that much, bringing a guy out and going, bleed you, your go. You can invest 5 pool for that. You know, you're spending 10 or 11, make it count. You know.
Yeah, precisely. Exactly. Exactly. There's a couple of cards in here that we've removed, but again, we'll talk about them a little bit more later. So yeah, next one here we've got a couple of action modifiers, rapid change. I think this is a great card. I think it's
Yeah, yeah.
almost criminally underrated. The amount of times this has got me out of a situation um is just amazing. So yeah, we'll talk a bit more about that
There's a,
later.
there's a very
Remember the
similar
false will? Quite
yeah.
underwhelming.
There's a very similar card to Rapid Change in Vicissitude um, that gets a lot of Plasmic Form, I think it's called. It's +1 stealth basic and strike dodge are advanced, and that gets a lot of play. I guess because you don't have Form of Mist in that in that discipline, obviously,
Well,
but like just the versatility of it is so good.
yeah.
As you've discovered a few times, that Form of Mist, while
Oof.
incredible, can be problematic when they block you the second
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Honestly, I love Former Mist, and I can't wait to talk about it more later because it's probably my favorite card in the deck.
It's very good.
Some reaction cards here in the original Stanislava 25 deck. 6 deflection, 3 on the QV, 3 second tradition, the main. But I think I do want a little bit of a discussion about these cards later. And then obviously the combat cards, star of the show there, Former Mist, absolutely incredible card. And along with 6 Earth Meld, which is a great card, but we've changed that again. So what are the changes that we've made to the deck and why? And so basically the concept that I was going for kind of takes me back to like my Yu-Gi-Oh days, which is like Yu-Gi-Oh!
You still got your Millennium
My
Puzzle
Vita's
on
deck has
the
no pathetic cards. And so one of the decks that I used to play was like a really super fast, aggressive deck. It just did one thing, and it was just down to your opponent to stop it. And what I found with the Stanislava 25 deck was that it was just trying to do too many different things all at once. It was trying to be something that it kind of wasn't, or at least that's how I found it in my local meta, and then also at tournaments. And so basically, the idea was to streamline it to try and get it to do, what it's meant to do, which is like bleed your opponent out at stealth, get big vampires out, and try and dominate the table with deflections and a bit of vote control.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what changes have we made to the deck? Well, first of all, Mark Decker can be a little bit underwhelming at times.
He's
Would you
crap.
agree?
Right? He's crap.
Yeah,
He doesn't have dominate. That sucks. It's a
precisely.
big deal. It's a big deal. And he's got animalism though, right?
He does.
Yeah.
He does.
Um,
And the thing is, against those weenie decks, and actually, I deliberately brought him out against you, when you were playing your Web of Fist deck, because he's got the +1 stealth.
mhm.
So it's a little bit of survivability against decks that are just going to try and hit you out.
But then you lose the
Um,
deflection, right?
exactly, and so
He's good against
it's
allies, I think. Ally decks, he seems pretty good
yeah,
against,
and werewolves.
especially werewolves. Yeah, because
Yeah,
that 2 damage kills a lot of allies, and
yeah,
because you've got like access to a lot of blood gain, as we'll see when we see more of your
yeah,
list. It's not
yeah.
really. You can win
But
that attrition war with him, which is nice.
yeah, yeah, and also like Mark Decker, again, he doesn't fit in with the concept that I'm trying to go for, which is like I want my deck to vote and bleed and to just push forward,
Yeah,
like and with Stanislava, if you're looking backwards too much, your hand's gonna get clumped with those cards that are just too defensive. Like it really is it's just a big aggro deck. It's an aggro deck with like a number 11 painted on it,
yeah.
basically. And so yeah, that's what we're going to try and bring out in this concept. Some mastercards here, big change. We've gone from 4 Zilla's Valley to 8 Zilla's Valley. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah. Well, it's important, isn't it? Like as we've
Yeah,
discussed a few times, if you don't get that quick brush, it can cost you the game. You need
yeah,
to be ahead on the board, and like
yeah,
that's the kind of thing with the fear of maquette. Like you try to cut out these votes and stop
mhm,
people from having them, but the best thing to do is just power more of your own out. So
yeah,
like Zill's Valley is doing the job the fear of maquette wants to do, but 100% of the time because
mhm,
it's getting you more vampires quick.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think it. There were some other cards that like just didn't fit in with the trend of just like pushing forward, pushing forward, pushing forward. So, for example, like Annoy's Theatre was one that I kind of got rid of. It was kind of underwhelming. It's like one of those that you needed a gangrel already out
Yeah,
to play, and once you've got your gangrels out, like you want to be doing other things with them. You want to be getting your hunting grounds out. You want to be getting your monastery of shadows out. You want to be villainin. You don't want to be getting like a +1 hand size and a +1 transfer. Like when you've already got your guys out, like
yeah.
it's it's not necessarily like a big massive thing. Eco terrorists are still and ah about. That's one that's been in and out the deck quite a few times.
Yeah,
It's currently in the deck. I just think it's too slow because Stanislava really is an aggro deck in disguise, and
yeah,
so yeah, it's one of them. I've taken out things like Barons and Dreams of the Sphinx because I just want to be doing other things. So we were talking before about getting the blood back on the vampires, how it's such an important concept for the deck because you can very quickly get out of steam because once you've Zilla's Valley, once you've Villained that vampire, and then once you've done like a govern backwards and then you freak drive, all of a sudden your vampire is stuck at 3 pools. So that's why we've brought in things like Papillon, we've brought in the Coven.
I think
We
it wasn't in the list originally, but the zoo hunting
Yeah,
ground,
yeah,
which was quite surprising.
yeah. That zoo hunt ground absolutely vital in the deck, and the deck really suffers when you don't see um any of them. And I'm thinking about bumping them up to like 2 each just to make sure that we get them. But we can obviously talk about that. Um, a bit more. Political actions, we have trimmed it. This has been on Huel. Political actions have been slimming down, and kind of like took out all of the things that are just situational. And I know that you don't like this, but it's my deck, so it's my call. So shut up. But we've taken things out like ancillary empowerment and stuff like that. It's just, and maybe it's just our meta, our local Liverpool meta, but we don't really play unless Warren's playing. We
No,
don't really play against
I don't
decks that
necessarily
just
agree
like,
there. I
yeah,
think a lot of our local players, especially when we go to events, like a lot of our local players have been representing Weenie Swarm quite a lot. I guess just like you happen to sit at a lot of tables when you're drawing it, you're not at those tables. Maybe you're not
yeah,
drawing it when you are, so you're not
yeah,
noticing. It can just feel like that sometimes with cards.
yeah. So I do keep them with me, and and they can go in the deck like as a meta call. Like they all there's quite a few political actions that say everyone takes 1 damage for every minion that you control. But what I've also found as well, mate, is that like as soon as you flip over that Stanislava, you've already got so much table hate. Everyone goes, "Oh no, here we go. Oh, Stanislava, we've got to stop it, mate." Oh, and I'm like, kind of, but like everyone else's deck does something right, but we're just
Yeah,
focusing on mine. Like, so I think there's a big target on the Stanislava's deck, on the Methuselah's back already. As soon as you flip over that Stanislava, and I hate dealing with the aggro of table hate cards. So as soon as you play that, like everyone takes 1 damage. Everyone
yeah,
goes, right. Well, it's war then.
yeah. I
you
guess
know,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you immediately become a table enemy.
So what you're saying, I think, the best reason to not run the card, like Anarchist Uprising and Ancillary Empowerment, will both generate table hate from that. Well, like, we talked about the meme last wec with the you put the one on the KRC on me. Imagine putting three on them. So I mean, you've got the you got me prey as well argument, but like that isn't always
Yeah,
going to work. You can't guarantee who's got the most minions, can you? So like when Stanny comes out, it definitely draws attention, but I'd say it's easier to argue your way out of it than a lot of decks. Like if you're playing Mark 94 Stealth Bleed and you just go Gilbert Dwayne, everyone's gonna go, oh damn. Like
yeah,
that Gilbert Dwayne is gonna be bleed for 6
yeah,
all the time.
yeah.
And that's
It's a
it.
problem.
It's a problem. And we all have to address the fact that that will take the table if left unchecked. Whereas
Yeah,
Stanislava, you can con people into thinking you're not as aggressive as you are. Whereas, like, sorry, as you say, you've streamlined yours to be like hyper aggressive. So I'm always aware of it, which is why
yeah,
I've been like saying to the table, stop helping them recently, but they just
yeah.
keep doing it anyway. It's because,
Yeah,
like,
and what was so interesting actually when we sat down at the in the Valentine's Day Massacre tournament,
yeah,
um, you know, I was doing really well at that and actually made the final table. Um, it was so funny because James, after facing my deck, started saying, "Oh well, yours is a good version. Yours is a good version, but there are other versions out there that are just much more streamlined." And I was like, "Yeah," and in my head, I was thinking, "Yeah," because I've just actually drawn a really slow hand. Um, but then in the next game, I took the whole table 6-0,
yeah,
and but at the time I was like, "Oh yeah, all right. Can I streamline it a bit more?" Yeah, thinking
yeah,
I've
yeah.
spent
You got to
4 years
bluff it, right?
doing that. Yeah, of course you've got to bluff it, and
And
then
with
so
Stanislava, you can be like,
yeah,
listen, I can just bloat for a bit. Like I'll call up a little stranglehold. I'll govern down. I'll just try and generate beads and hunt and stuff. But
yeah,
whereas realistically, the actions in your deck are just take beads. You've got one action that doesn't take beads, right?
yeah,
So you're like, okay, well, if you keep me in, I can try and bloat. And they're like, okay, I'll keep you in. And then you're like,
yeah,
right, bleed you for 7, and then they're like, I thought you were going to bloat, and you're like, well, yeah, I gained 6 when you're dead. I'm hoping to get 12 this turn, you know?
Yeah, precisely.
But people will fall for it and be like, oh, we'll help you out because you don't. This deck,
Because the
one of
deck
its
hurts
powers
itself a
is,
lot. It
well,
hurts itself a lot.
nothing
Like you
sits on
often
the
go
table
down.
other than
Yeah.
vampires, really.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you're not giving equipment to you guys and stacking them up. You don't have like a terrifying board state. You just have a couple of vampires with barely any blood on them, and people are like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
that's
very subtle.
what's the
It's a
problem? And
very
then you're
subtle
like,
deck.
take 5, unlock, take 3, okay, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, precisely. And part of me wants to say, like, you know what? Maybe I'll just embrace being the bad guy one day, like, and just make like a ridiculous version of this deck, which just goes in, like with like conditioning. So, for example, like you'll see I don't have any conditioning in this deck, where it might be just be like bleed you for 6, bleed you for 5, bleed you, like,
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff, and just embrace the fact that like the whole deck is just sorry, not the whole deck, the whole table is just going to hate you regardless. Because in fact, no matter how slow of a start you might get, like for example, I might draw no Zilla's Valleys, and I might bring out a Stanislava turn 4 because I've been on, one transfer, and as I'll pull out Stanislava, and there'll be people who have like got their opponent on like 3 pool, and they'll be like, "Oh, where's Stanislava? We've got to stop it." I'm like, bro, like I've only just got my my first vampire out.
as you can
My
tell,
man's
I'm
got
still lightning
6.
card.
Yeah,
Yeah,
precisely,
I'm on 3
precisely.
pool with 1 vampire. You probably don't have to worry about me.
Yeah,
But the
exactly.
embrace the bad guy thing is quite fun. I think I've only done it like once or twice where we sit at a table, everyone goes, "Oh, you got to stop him," and you just go,
like
try and stop me.
Morpheus from the Matrix. Like,
Yeah, yeah, let's stop him. How? I'd like to see you try. And
yeah,
sometimes like you'll say that, and then people just don't bother because they're like, "Oh, he's got what he wants. He's got like,"
yeah.
and you're like, and you're sitting there with like, "I'm dead if they've got a grapple," and it's just like, sure, you know?
Oh well, we'll talk about grapple a bit more in a bit. But yeah, we went from 7 governing the unaligned to just 4. You might think it's crazy, but because there's so many freak drive actions in the deck, it's always terrible when you get govern and you get govern. So it's actually worked so well. Like to put 5 pool backwards as well is just absolutely amazing, and also to get Stanny bleeding for you know for loads at the
Yeah,
end game. Like the card is always live, but then also the fact that you can govern on the unaligned, freak drive, and then scout and mission, and then freak drive again, and then bleed your opponent for 3, freak drive again, call a political action, take 3 off them. That's like a 12 bead swing in just
yeah,
one turn, and it's just absolutely nuts. So again, it's all about streamlining, making your vampires do as much as possible. These action modifiers, again, we just basically added more stealth to the deck. We found that we needed more stealth. There were certain situations that I was getting myself into where people were just having a lot of intercept. I was like, I just need more earth control. So it's so good. And ankle cargo.
it's so fun though. You
Yeah.
know, all aspects is fun. So
Yeah.
great.
Well, that says you because you just love to block me. I think we had a game the other week where,
Not blocking sucks though, right? Like
yeah,
bleedy for 8, no block attempt. Who wants to do that? Who
yeah,
wants to say no block attempt on bleed for 8?
yeah, I know, yeah.
So play all
Well,
spec.
people with deflection, that's it. But didn't we? I think we had a game the other week where I managed to get to 7 stealth, and you came in with 8 intercept.
Yeah, that was a little while
And I
ago.
was there like, sure, whatever.
We were both like off the top with it as well, right? Just like
Yeah. It was absolutely like I threw everything. Like I had the backways, the Monastery of Shadows, had the Earth Control. I had the Former Mist as well, going in again at +1 stealth. At the Rapid Change as well. Like I just
Yeah.
had everything
I
going,
think we got to
and
like 6 or like 5 or whatever, and then you were like, right, and then someone goes like, "He still hasn't burned the blood for the Bowl of Convergence," and you were like, "What?" Just like, still
yeah,
burned the blood. He was like, "Oh
yeah,
no."
yeah. I know it's one of them where you got to think about so much that like there's so many triggers that you can't just forget about. But also, like, even is it Force March or is it Freak Drive that gives you like an extra stealth
Force
as
March,
well?
yeah.
Yeah,
Force
Force
March is
March, like,
nice. You
you
get a
know,
stealth and you can burn a blood to unlock at the end of the
yeah,
action.
exactly. Just all around brilliant, brilliant cards. And again, super streamlined, no nonsense, just going in as much as you can, getting as much out of your vampires as possible. The action modifiers, again, rapid change, talked about this before, brilliant card. We've taken out Murmur of the False Will, which is just objectively
I like the
not.
card. I usually run one in
Yeah.
extra and deflecting, but in this list, only Stanislava can play it.
Only Stanislava can play it, and then Ingrid
I,
can play it for +1 bleed.
yeah, so you
And
can get +1, which you don't care about at all. And I
no,
think we'll
yeah,
probably talk about in a slide or two. Stani can't second trad,
yeah,
so
yeah,
most of your
exactly.
she can't use to then play the murmur. So you want Ingrid to be able to do it, really.
Yeah, precisely, precisely. And that's the thing. Like, if you're not deflecting, it's probably gone wrong somewhere. and 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 so yeah, if we just leave it there. So yeah, 7 deflection. We've moved the deflections up in the deck, and we've cut the reaction cards. I just feel like if you're blocking in Stanislava, you're gonna have a bad time. No, sorry, correction. If you're blocking in Stanislava, vote and bleed, you're gonna have a bad time.
I think
There's
we
no.
could do a slower version of the list, maybe, where like you build a little more and kind of, like a
Get
more traditional
get a
card
get a
vampire.
sniper rifle,
Yeah. Well, no, I wouldn't
all that.
say, but you could run obedience, for example. So when you block, you'd stay unlocked, and so like if you had more dominate in the deck, you could second trad block obedience. But again, Stanley can't do it. But I think like maybe there's a list out there where you could run like off clan, dominate just the cars and stuff as support, which could possibly work. Like have eventually just the car in there. You've got dominate and you've got fortitude. There's probably a few options there. But
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think, what I kind of want to do at the moment is I'm thinking about going from um 2 on the QEV and 2 second tradition domain. I'm thinking about just moving completely to 4 on the QEV, because if I wake and I have to block, I think I've already lost something. But I want to wake and I want to deflect. That's what I want to do when I wake. I don't want to fight. I don't want to get into fisticuffs, because all I've got there is I've got like Earth Meld. That's just the strike combat ends and unlock, which is great. But also, as you say, Stanley can't play second tradition domain. I think the only thing that gives you the advantage is the intercept again. But if you're relying on intercept to block bleeds and stuff
well,
like that, it's just
I,
you've
I, I
already
don't
lost.
think I don't think it's for bleeds. Like I think w-
Yeah,
what's important about second tradition is it can block key actions like Raven Spy and Bowl of Convergence. Like that's what it's there for.
yeah,
Um, Actions that are going to hurt you in the long run, you block. It can also be used on a defensive pivot where you could say you've got like a Ventru Predator, and they go, "I'm going to call this referendum." You go, second try, block it, right? Then you Earthmeld, and then when they bleed, you're awake for the deflect. So I think
yeah,
there's a lot of intricacies to it, and I think it's a very valid card in the deck. And
yeah,
there's a reason like Venturi Law Firm will run like 6-second trads, even though it costs blood and forces you to block, because they can play around with it. Your Majesty, you can deflect afterwards, and it just means you can deal with those pain in the arse actions that are going to really hurt you for the rest of the game. Like Boulder Convergence is an absolute nightmare for you. If you can't block that,
Yeah, Raven
you're
Spy,
going to have a bad
Solar
time.
Conversions, all it's gonna have a bad time. Yeah, it's totally painful, but at the
What I
same
would
time,
suggest, woman, is Eyes of the Wild. I think that's a better play, and that's what I run in my build. It's the new Gangrel only one. You unlock an attempt to block with
yeah,
+1 protect. If you
yeah,
fail to block, you lock at the end of the action, which is interesting. Would change the target because you'd still say unlock, which is kind of funny. But it'll basically unlock you. You tend to block, but you get the intercept. That's the main thing. You get that one intercept,
yeah,
so you can stop those little key actions. Because most decks that won't run that stealth on them, they usually vote or bleed if they're running stealth, right?
yeah.
It's very rare they're gonna stealth an equipment or something. I know you get the odd one, like I've got decks where you force march it through or whatever, but I still think it'll get you most of it. And because people expect the second trad, they often fall into the Eyes of the Wild because they think, well, Stanny can't block it. And you get Stanny out first. And let's face it, I'm going to equip a Raven Spy before you get that Justicar out.
Exactly, and that's why I'm thinking about cutting it, because like by the time you can block those kinds of things, I feel like damage has already been done, and you end up blocking things like bleeds with it because your vampire's been intercepted about 9 times and been just beaten up with immortal grapples
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely one to consider. And if you are listening along, thank you very much. But do pop a little comment in the comment section. Let us know exactly what you think about the changes that we're making to the deck, and also any suggestions as well. Combat cards.
Well, I'd
So
like to say there's some cards he doesn't want you to suggest. You'll just get angry with. We'll cover that in a bit.
we will. I'm gonna get
You want to put
very just
comments with asking them to put them in.
be warned. I'm
Yeah,
gonna get emotional in a minute, right? When we talk about some of the cards people suggest about
emotional
putting in
damage.
the deck, proper emotional damage. Like, oh. But anyway, so we've cut some Earthmeld. It's a great card, but I just think Former Mist is better. And so the reason why I cut Earthmeld and added more Former Mist, because I was
Because of the text
literally
card.
well, it's an unbelievable card, but also I realized that you can play it more than once each combat. You can only do it at superior.
Yeah. And
Once.
dodge is usually enough to get you out of
Strike
dodge, really. So
strike dodge for free
it's good.
is just amazing anyway. But the fact that like you can make your opponent block you and then go, yeah, that's fine. You can block me, and then just carry on at the +1 stealth for the cost of 1 blood, whilst at the
Mm.
same time blocking their like there are cards, right? For example, what's Pentex, that says
And
this
text
this
version.
vampire can't block.
Yeah.
This card does it like at instant for 1 less blood, unless you carry on a +1 stealth. Yeah,
The
your
downside
vampire.
is it
Yeah,
won't help you against someone who's played a wake, because wake will allow you to block again. So
yeah,
it'll give you stealth though, so it's still only a rapid change effectively at that point, which
yeah,
isn't bad. And you can quite often get in over that wake using that stealth and draw
mm,
another card. You might get an extra 2 stealth or whatever.
yeah,
But the important
exactly.
thing to remember as well, uh, remember this one, listen at home, you don't have to continue the action. People seem to forget that somehow. Like I've seen that quite a bit where people are like, oh, I've got to continue and get blocked again, and you're like, no, you can
Yeah,
choose to not spend blood, to not go to torpor. That's fine.
yeah,
just end the combat and go. That's cool. Let's leave it there.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like this vampire can burn 1 blood to carry
Yeah,
on.
yeah. That word can
Wise.
people like overlook on a few cards. So.
Yeah, totally. It's why the card is just so fantastic. It's such a versatile card. I love it. It's my favorite card in the deck by some mile
There's a
as
card I
well.
saw like I've played it in the Toreador actually, but like I saw it in your box earlier today. That wasn't an innuendo.
I was going to say you've been peeking at my box. Mm.
Torrent. It's a celerity card.
Mm-hmm.
I think basic's additional strike and advanced is continue the action as if like combat ends and continue
As
the
if
action.
unblocked. Yeah.
It doesn't give you the stealth like Former Mist does, and it costs 2 blood, which is a bit poop. But it's not limited to once per action. So what could be quite funny is if you form a mist and then someone blocks, and then you go, okay, torrent, and you got rid of 2 of them.
So what you're saying is kind of like what we've done with Govern the Unaligned, in which we can kind of like govern, but also govern again, but slightly worse, just because that's
It's
just the way cards work in
probably
Vitas.
janky, but it's kind of funny, right? Like
Precisely.
I
Yeah.
kind of like the idea of just running one of them, just one, and be like, okay, that's.
You know what? I'll try it
Just for the
just for a
bar.
laugh.
I mean, I've given the game away
Yeah.
to the public on YouTube now, but like,
Yeah.
hopefully their memory's as bad as mine, and they'll or you just I'll forget, and you'll go, oh wow, that's such a good card, Mikey. Why do you think of running that? And you'll be like, just came to me, yeah.
It came to me in a vision.
Vision quest.
Oh, brilliant. And then this is also a little tech card.
Yeah, you
that
haven't
I've put in
for
recently.
one game so far.
Yeah, one game, and I love it. I love it. It's so good.
In that game, I was to your right playing the new Gangrel Anarchs.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter to me at all. It didn't affect me.
No.
But you did have a Prey playing Ventru Law Farm.
Yep.
And then a Grand Prey. I can't remember what your Grand Prey was playing. Excuse me, sorry. I can't remember what your Grand Prey was playing, but they were also using large vampires.
Yeah. And I think
just, either you're getting 2 VPs or your Prey's getting a VP, then you're getting a VP because of deflection. Like, this is. I have to stop this to stop you
rolling
winning.
the table, and for one blood as well.
One
to
pool,
be able to, one pool. Sorry, it's just like it's a card that just creates so much threat.
Yeah, and with the multi-act that you've got in the deck, you can spare the time. It's easy enough.
Yeah, and to have a Stanislava, for example, that in Liverpool, typically where we play, the meta seems to be with larger vampires on the whole. To have a Stanislava that you just can't interact with is just a frightening concept. So that's why this comes in at a one-off, and hopefully we'll be able to do a bit more research on this card and tell you how it goes after some more play testing. But yeah, I think the card is great, and I can't wait to play with it a little bit more. So
what I'd like to say about you talking about the meta of large vampires there, I think that's generally a casual play staple, I imagine, because big vampires are more interesting. So if you're just playing weekly with friends, I think you're more likely to play a deck that's using big vampires that do interesting things. Because if you're playing weenies, you just you've got you probably
said
weenie. You're probably following a really linear pattern, right? Like, so
yeah,
okay, I'll swarm the table and bleed. Cool. It's not interactive. It's kind of fun to do every now and then,
or whatever.
But everyone like it's one of those ones that everyone's like, "Oh, you're playing that again? Oh, that's happening." So I think generally, like week to week play, you won't see small weenie swarm decks as regularly as you would in a tournament, where they're just an effective strategy.
And the real problem, the real problem I find with decks like that, though, is how you pronounce consanguineous Consanguineous boon.
Consuela's boon. Consuela's boobs.
Consuela's boobs.
Consuela's
You
boobs.
heard it here on Lies from the Tabletop, a Vitez podcast. It is pronounced Consuela's boobs.
Consuela's boobs, name and gangle.
Oh, brilliant. So anyway, off that tangent, just bring us back to the starter cards in the deck. These are what I think are the three best cards in the deck. Obviously, Former Mist can just get you around any. I say any. Obviously, we don't talk too much about
Bruno.
Immortal Grapple.
Should we call Immortal Grapple Bruno from now on?
Yeah, because we don't talk about Immortal Grapple. Yeah, we don't talk about Bruno. No. But yeah, Former Mist basically gets you out of any bad situation apart from one grapple card, which is great. And then Zilla's Valley, I always feel like if I have a Zilla's Valley in my opening hand, I can win the game. And quite regularly do, actually. I feel like, when I show up on a Monday night, I think it's quite rare that I don't get at least half of the VPs available in a game. At the moment, I think we are absolutely smashing it with
rescuing you from Torba. I told you, it's disgusting.
Look, I think if you're going to play a deck like Stanislava, by the way, and just for people at home, you have to have some good table talk. You've got to be an absolute wonder blagger. So, for me, my day job helps me out with that. Like in my real life day job, I'm a priest, so I've got to blag people all the time.
I don't even know who Jesus is. Just
yeah.
turn up at work and talk about it.
This god character, you can't see him, but
he seems to be the protagonist of the story.
Yeah, if you vote for him, I'll give you 3 pool. Yeah, but yeah, if I start with Zilla's Valley, I'm always having a good time, and then the cards like Papillon, like Coven, like the Hunting Ground, they are just absolutely key because it costs you so much to get these vampires out. You need to be getting stuff back from them with things like Verlaine, and then to be getting stuff back on them regularly to be able to keep that multi-acting going is just, once that engine is set up, you're rolling the table without a doubt. I don't think I've ever lost a game where I've had 2 Hunting Grounds out at once. I think that's how good the cards are.
Yeah,
and so yeah, that's them, man.
It allows you to Verlaine without worry, and that's one of the biggest, like,
without fear of Maquette.
Without fear of Maquette, yeah, like tanking that fear of Maquette with 5 blood a turn. Whoa.
Yeah.
No, but like it's one of those, like, I can't think of the word I'm trying to use, but like you just like hit a wall where you like die into Verlaine, but you just don't have the blood, and because you run a lot of cards that require blood, like Earth Control, Former Mist, Governing a Line, and
Free Drive, and
Force March if you're using the advanced.
Totally.
You want to be using blood all the time, but you also desperate to get it off your vampires. So if you're not refilling them, you're probably not winning, to be quite honest.
Exactly.
Because you can't tank the hits coming in unless you're super fast.
Yeah.
Which you ideally would
tell
be. You can't always count your predator not doing anything.
Yeah. I'll tell you what the saddest action is. When you're playing Stanislava, it's hunt. If you have to hunt with Stanislava,
at least you can force march afterwards. Imagine getting a level cap out and hunting and not having a way to unlock. Like,
yeah, it's horrible. Exactly. That's why the Hunting Grounds are just so important in the deck, for sure. And so, PJ, obviously, this is my deck mate, and the most important time of the podcast has come. Every podcast that we have, every deck that we present, we rate what has happened out of 13 Bobby Lemons. So, PJ, out of 13 Bobby Lemons, how Bobby is Stanislava's lemon? 1. Really? I think I gave you. What did I give you for yours? I gave you like a 9. 9
9.
out of
I mean,
13, Bob.
out of 13, that's not good, right?
That's pretty good. That's
That's
pretty damn
basically
good.
a 7 out of 10. I've give you more on Tinder. Wait, what? No, I'd give it a
It wasn't
10.
Tinder, it was the other one.
I'd give it a 10. It's took like what because with rating, it's like it's a highly competitive deck. It's very
Yeah.
strong. Uh, it has weaknesses. Every deck does, but it's at a point where like you've refined it so much that it's got to be at the top of its game. Like with the deck I presented the other week, it was like we went away going, okay, I'm fairly new to the deck. I've got these changes to make and stuff. Whereas this is like it's pretty much there. Like you would feel comfortable playing this at a GP.
Yeah,
GP, we'll talk about in a minute. Uh,
exactly.
uh, so realistically, it's sort of like a 12 or 13 when you think of like your how comfortable and confident you are with the build.
Yeah.
Uh, I would change it a little myself because I'm just weird and don't like things the way other people like them. But like I'd give it a 10. I think I like your odds in an event with that,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially now you've told everyone your deck list and how to beat it. I really like
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's definitely like something that kind of suits my play style as well. Like it's
Yeah,
hyper competitive, like it's super aggressive, and again, like other people are welcome to play the deck however they want, and I think it is player dependent to some extent. Like if you don't feel comfortable not having any parity shifts because you actually want to gain some pool back. Like I gain my pool back when I oust someone. It's that aggressive.
people don't think about that a lot. It's surprisingly, but
Yeah,
that is a strategy.
it's a legit way to go. Uh, like if there was something that you always taught me back in the day when we were playing Magic together, it was if you're on one life, you're fine
Yeah,
because you're
doesn't matter
not
how
dead.
much you win, does it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter how many um pool you are on when you stabilize, as long as you stabilize. That's one of
Yeah,
the most important things.
it's a tough one. A lot of people overestimate, I find, the value of pressure in terms of pool taken. Like quite often, I mean, if you're sitting there and your predator does nothing, you're just gonna smash the game. You're gonna be so far ahead because you've got 30 beads to spend. So like you cut down resources by doing that, stop them getting out additional vampires and stuff. But if a player's at a point where they're not buying any more vampires and they're not really playing cards that cost pool, it doesn't benefit you in any way to pressure them with pool loss because they're already at the point critical mass of it. It's like diminishing returns from that point. You're not going to get anything out of it. It's just, oh, you're down to 7. Yeah. I'd like you to get a bit more pressure. Wait, what? Like, what can I do on 7 realistically? Am I going to go Monastery of Shadows, buy out 2 guys? Like, no.
No, yeah, it
if,
costs
if
it
you're on less
costs
than 10,
3.
you don't
Yeah,
need to put one on the KRC to pressure them. Like it's it's fine.
no,
But I've
yeah,
seen
it's fine.
people like, oh, this guy needs more pressure, and it's like, yeah, like someone needs to grapple into uppers, dude. Like that's a different thing. Like
Yeah,
you've got a Stanislav route, and that is doing the job on its own. Pressure in your pool isn't gonna matter. Like you've got a Stanislav and a Monastery Shadows, so you can take fucking 9 pool off me a turn or whatever.
easily.
Like,
Yeah, if you
so why,
wanted.
what's the point of me letting this stealth bleed deck get through a bit more? I
Yeah,
mean, if anything, it's probably just going to let him deflect harder into me.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
exactly. And I think that's one of the things that we kind of need to mention before we go into the next segment is like we have sung Stanislava's praises here, and don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic deck. I'd say it's like a tier 1 deck, and is capable of winning events, taking tables, but at the same time, it's got its weaknesses. And
hmm.
my experience with the deck has led me to a bit of an ongoing joke in the Vitesse community, in which I hate with a passion Immortal Grapple. I just hate it. It's it's a card that kills it kills my deck. You know, it's really horrible. But I think we'll get on a little bit to that afterwards about Immortal Grapple. But we're just going to take a little segue at the moment. So PJ, before this episode, I challenged you to think up a little concept. So recently, Fall of London was released, and when I saw the previews, as someone who, again with not an amazing knowledge of the game, I saw this particular card, ECTU operative, and I just went, wow, that's awesome. You know, it's a mortal with 3 life. You can recruit him. He's got 1 strength, can strike at 1 range damage, and he gets a maneuver every concept, and he can burn a vampire in torpor as a directed action. Amazing,
Yeah,
amazing card. But I'm not really seeing him played much, so I thought I'd hand it over to you. What would you do with this card, mate?
I believe there was something in the TWA fairly recently that ran some antigen stuff. So we'll have to have a look at that. We could maybe talk about it soon, but like we'll definitely look it up. The biggest advantage I think to him is he's Operation Antigen, isn't he? So he works with Mobile HQ, which I barely remember what it does, so I've just quickly searched up. It's a unique location, cost of 2 pool. Operation Antigen ally you control can lock this location to attempt to enter combat with a vampire as a +1 stealth D action, which is quite powerful because allies generally don't have a means to do that. There's a lot with
Yeah,
built-in rushes, and I think that this is key. Like if you're going to run the anti-gen stuff in Fall of London, I think you need a couple of copies of this card because
yeah,
without it, like the biggest downside to them and the reason they're not seeing a lot of play is they don't have ways to enter combat. So there's like the guy who can search up equipment, but then he can't really do anything with it, you know.
yeah,
Um, but getting this out, or if you run enough bums rushes in your deck as well, obviously they can play action cards. Excuse me, that don't require disciplines, so you can do that kind of stuff. Um, so this will let you rush them, and it's at stealth, and that's a big deal. Stealth on a rush blows people out. The amount of people that are just like, "Oh, I'll block it," and you're like, "Nope, I'm gonna
yeah.
get the. I'm getting Stanislava. I'm not dealing with Mark Decker. I'm getting, like, oh, but that's not all that the HQ does. Are also you can lock it to add life. Add enough life to an Operation Antigen ally you control to reach their starting life, which is this guy's big advantage probably because he has 3 life, which is a lot.
Yeah,
Like for a 2
for,
pool ally,
for a recruit action is just amazing.
very few have this amount of pool, amount of life really, especially with such a small pool card.
It's an immediate bead game,
Well,
kind of.
I don't really consider life beads because you can't blood doll them. Basically, there's no way to get it back.
Yeah,
Uh, so I don't. It's kind of that's spent. But there are obviously ways you can get around it. Like there's a card leech which a mortal can play. Um, a mortal or a mage, I think it is. Uh, they steal blood from a guy and it becomes life, and then they get basic potence until the next turn. So theoretically, you could play that, then enter combat, and then there's a card, potence card, Street Cred. That's like,
I'm sorry, I don't have any of that, so I don't know what it does.
oh, you do, dog. You got plenty of Street Cred. It's, it's like a weird way to kind of govern. I'll read it to you now.
Go on.
Only usable at the end of a round of combat in which this vampire successfully inflicted more damage than the opposing minion. Basic potence. Move 1 blood from the blood bank to a younger vampire. Oh, it's a younger vampire though, so you couldn't. Never
It's
mind.
not an ally.
You couldn't
Yeah.
even do that. You couldn't even. He's useless. Useless. No.
It's all gone wrong. It's all
So
gone wrong.
the main thing, like looking at this card standalone, right? If you don't use it with the Operation Antigen stuff, I think it's below par
Yeah,
because it doesn't have any bleed. That's the main thing.
yeah. And
Um,
there's other recruits weenies that are just objectively better.
well, it's very similar to one called Outcast Mage, which is Tremere
Yeah,
only guy. He's three pool, 2 life. I can't remember if he's got strength or not, to be honest. He's got 1 bleed though, and he's got the option maneuver, but he does 2 range damage, so better. And there's like a recent guy in the crypt who can reduce the cost of them as well. He's quite powerful. He's in the 25th deck actually, Grimgroff. He reduces the cost of mage allies by 2 when Tremere recruits. So like I've got a deck that does it, and I think that it's pretty powerful. This guy, he doesn't bleed. He only hits for 1. But there are obviously ways to boost it. The Burn of Vampire and Torpors are clear nice bonus, so he's good for support and other stuff. There are other allies that can do that. So I think you have to play this guy with mobile HQ to make him good. The cost of 2 is fairly reasonable. He's got an additional, because he's got a maneuver. What you could do with him actually is there's plenty of guns that just do damage. So like Magnum gives you maneuver and 2 damage, right? But it costs 2. But this Desert Eagle that does 2 damage only costs 1 pool. So you could do things like give him that. But I think there's another one that shoots for 4 damage, only usable at range. You could do that, or you could
sniper rifle or something.
sniper rifle and press, and then maneuver in the second round and use the sniper rifle again. So there's many ways to abuse that free maneuver, because that strike isn't locked to the maneuver, so you can maneuver and strike something else. You can play target vitals with him. You can do a lot of damage with this one little guy, and because he's got 3 life, if you run Bum's Rush, you can use the mobile HQ to restore his life, and that isn't restricted either. So you can lock this location to add enough life to an Operation Antigen ally you control to reach their starting life. But that doesn't say like in your master phase or anything like that. So you can be you can play trap and go, okay, I'm just gonna go to range,
It's
shoot
a
for 1.
trap.
It's a trap. I'm gonna shoot you for 1, and then you press, and they're like, right, but you're dead now on you this round, and you're like, no, I'm gonna refill his life to 3. So I'll put him back up to 3 in the middle of the combat.
In the
and then
middle of combat, yeah,
so,
that's a great trick.
He's actually fairly fearsome in the combat if you can get it going. I think you
Exactly.
could potentially run a deck where you've got a lot of Operation Antigen guys and just run like 10 Bums Rush and then a few mobile HQs. And just...
Yeah.
That was supposed to be not a
And
gut.
that, for the viewers at home, is the technical term of.
Yeah. Guns don't have duck.
Yeah. Well, all of a sudden, ECTU operative doesn't seem so underwhelming. So yeah, thanks for that, mate. And I think as well for the listeners at home, if you've got any ideas, any concepts for this card, or even anything actually related to Fall of London, which you could suggest to us would be a good concept for a deck, do let us know in the comments below, and we'd love to discuss that a bit more.
I'd love to look more into making these guys a thing. We had a few concepts, didn't we? Like we were talking about using like necromancy, a necromancy deck where you can like bin them off, use shambling hordes and stuff with them. Because there's a few cards that let you get allies back into play from the graveyard. So there's some cool interaction you could do there. We also talked about doing an imbued deck with them, didn't we? Where we could just run all the Gehenna events and it just mortals dot deck. Could be quite fun. It could be interesting support for imbued. Not that anyone wants me to encourage people to play imbued at all.
Yeah, don't do that. That's harsh.
Get the hypnosis out. Play imbued. Play imbued. Play imbued. Anyway, sorry, let's move on.
Yeah, for sure. Right, well, we've come to the part of our podcast where we are looking at some of our memes. Yes, we love a good Vitez meme on this podcast, and it's time
as
to
you would call them, memes.
Memes, as your ma would say, lads. So this week, if you're not already familiar with it, we're going to introduce you to the idea of grapple posting. We touched on this a little bit earlier, in that I'm a Stanislava player, and a card that just ultimately just kills me dead is Immortal Grapple. It's so hard for my deck to find a legitimate way to get around this card, and so we've got some memes from this. If you would like to join our little meme group, search on Facebook, Flames of the Netherworld, and join there, and just go on a scroll, have a laugh. It's great. So yeah, shout out to the folks from Flames of the Neverworld. If you're watching along, we love you and we love your memes. So let's have a look at some of the grapple posts. This was one of the first grapple posts. Which is just like
one of the first. You got that far back.
Yeah. There is a history of grapple posting, and it's just so true. Immortal Grapple just kills me. I've just got no viable way of interacting with the card in Stanislava Vote and Bleed. There's just no viable way of doing it. At least one that doesn't like tie me hands behind my
without
back.
like compromising
the whole entire deck. Yeah, basically, yeah.
There
So
with dead cards in a deck that's playing 30 cards a turn.
yeah, and if someone does play, Immortal Grapple against me, they literally stand there like this. Well, I just like take a bar 7, go to Torpor. I'm like, yeah, great, thanks. I'll form a mist. No, you don't. Earth Meld. No, you don't. It's one of them. It's just horrible to interact with. All right, so this next one is the World's Strongest Man contest, and we see some really strong men lifting some really heavy things, and being dubbed the World's Strongest Man. However, there is one exception, and it's this man here. He gets 10s from all the judges, and he is the World's Strongest Man because he plays Stanislava despite the existence of Immortal Grapple. Come on, man.
I'm gonna guess that's one of yours.
Yeah. I don't get enough credit for playing.
It's the personal note, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a classic grapple post there as well. And then this is one of the originals, which is so my daughter tells me that you're a huge Vitesse fan. If you don't know this meme, this is like a classic like potential son-in-law meets the dad. And so this potential son-in-law, he says, yes, ma'am, I always carry 8 Claws of the Dead in my deck in case I run into trouble. And he says, tonight, don't you dare pull out. Oh, man. I mean, we'll talk about Claws of the Dead in a little bit. But anyway, next one. This is one that you made. Care to explain it for us? For listeners at home.
It feels self-explanatory. Yeah. Should I be the sexy lady in the room next door and you be you?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll
close your eyes.
Okay.
Get ready to fulfill your most cherished dream.
My most cherished dream? Oh, I wish Immortal Grapple was banned. Ah. No, it's so true. It's so true. And then despite all of this grapple posting and despite all of our shit posting, there are still people who comment and by the way, I warned you I was going to get angry. There are still people who comment going, well, actually, if you run about 6 Claws of the Dead, you'll be fine. Oh, have you tried Disengage? Have you tried Alpha Glint, mate? And I'm just like, it just slows the deck down so much. Like, so PJ, why did you take us through some of these card suggestions that people are doing and explain why are they bad in Stanislava Vote and Bleed?
It's important to make clear that when people post memes,
they're a joke.
It's a joke. It's a joke. And if they're posting memes about themselves being bad, it's like self-deprecationally humor. So they're not asking for deck advice.
Exactly.
They're making a joke, saying, "Listen, this happened. It was funny. But if I take the perspective of a victim in this situation, it makes the joke all the better." So don't be like,
Exactly.
you fix it by doing it. Like, just be like, oh, that's a funny joke, yeah, because
I can see how Stanislava does
would
get
be
wrecked
problematic for you, yeah.
by
When you're
Immortal
playing Earthmeld and they're playing Immortal Grapple, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
It's like
when I'm playing Form of Mist,
Yeah.
It's like
I played Form of Mist, they played Psych. Oh well, you could have done a direct intervention. No, like firstly you can't because it's probably on your turn. Okay, with an ankle cog, but it doesn't matter. The joke is like that interaction is funny.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've explained how jokes work. Now let's talk about
Yeah.
cards.
Yeah. You get
So,
all the good content here on Lies from the Tabletop.
yeah,
Yeah.
we like to educate the world on basic concepts in a very patronising manner.
Because some people need educating
Yeah,
on basic concepts.
we just want to say to people who say, actually. Actually.
Actually.
So, Claws of the Dead. Why is it good? It's not. I
Yeah.
mean, no. It does. The idea is you can strike aggravated damage. So if someone plays Mortal Grapple, their opponent's deck, they tend to not have damage prevention. So hitting them for one aggravated back will send the vampire to torpor. Reason it's not good, sending them to torpor isn't really that effective if you're also going. Because as we discussed earlier, Stanislav is probably on between 3 and 6 blood at most times anyway. So Potent's deck will make short work of that. They'll take you with them. And if your Star Vampire is going to torpor and the 3 to 6 cap vampire is going to torpor, you're still worse off than they are.
Oh, what a value trade that is, mate.
Prestige.
So much value. I've swapped my 11 cap for a free cap. Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll get good feedback on eBay for that deal, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The better part of Claws of Dead is actually the maneuver. If you can maneuver away, you're probably better off than aggravating them. I mean, if they're dying to maneuver, then they've got a bad combat deck, but they'll probably maneuver back. But still, it's an option. There's another card that would be better. That's called Quick Meld. Basics maneuver, advances maneuver, burn of blood for an extra maneuver. I'd say that's a better option, really, because that gets you away, and it's not dead against any other combat deck. Much like you said, Former Mist, Strike and Dodge, it still ends that combat.
but
You lose the
even that,
value of Earth Meld or Former Mist. It's as much value as Rapid Changes, really. But
even
if you
that
were
is
going to
like,
deal with grapple, I'd go with that over Claws the Dead because you're not in torpor at the end of it, which is the fucking goal of the combat.
but even then, like, say you burn a blood 3 times to maneuver away.
Two
Your vampire's
maneuvers should
still
get opponents deck.
on none.
Two maneuvers should get opponents deck, but it's still dead against celerity decks, and it's not solving the problem. It's just
exactly. But in a deck where like every single bead that's on your vampire, you need to be using to go forward. To be using them to defend is so counterproductive.
Oh, I'm not suggesting you do that. Anyway,
yeah, exactly. I'm
off.
agreeing with you. You know,
Because in this one, with Claws of the Dead, you're burning the blood and you're still going to torpor.
Yeah.
So,
like that Claws of the Dead could be an Earth Meld.
if you were on 6 blood and
Stealth
you're in
through
opponent's deck,
anyway.
they're going Torn Signpost, Roundhouse, and hitting you for 7, right? And you're going, I'm going to spend 1 and go to torpor anyway. It's just you've lost the game. You've lost the game. It doesn't matter that they're guys in torpor.
Yeah, we both go to torpor, except for I've got no blood on my guy. You've got all the blood on your guy. Like, say there's the off chance that I can somehow get another guy out, rescue my guy without getting blocked and beaten up again to get my guy out, and then they have to hunt, and then that doesn't get blocked, and they get, fought again in combat. Like, there's just so many times, like every action you're doing, you want to be going forward and you want to stealth. Whereas, like, if you're doing like defensive actions, like rescuing from torpor and hunting, like the game's already over.
Yeah.
Like,
where'd you go from there? You're in torpor with 0 blood. You've alleviated your pressure, maybe, or sent one of your praise vampires. Like, if you send one of your praise vampires to torpor, it's probably not even going to benefit you really in this deck. Like, I don't. You still lost 3 to fame. You've still lost your vampire. You've still lost your blood. You've still lost the game. It doesn't matter. Like, where do you go from there other than home? Like, you go home, you pack up early and go sound. Let's just call it quits. I'll just leave 10 beads on the table for you to bleed out while I go home. Like, that's all you can do.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it gives you time to go to the bar or whatever if you play in the pub like we do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, Yeah, there is like I do try to keep an open mind, and I am open to suggestions. But these cards, all three of them, they just seem spiteful. They're like, oh well, I'm gonna die. Well, you're gonna have a mild inconvenience. Like, yeah, you can put me in the ground, and I'm gonna stub your toe.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't. It just feels totally
Well,
counterproductive.
this one does. I think the other ones are have the same problem as what you said earlier about quick meld.
Yeah,
Like Alpha Glint, solid way to end combat. You finish the combat before it starts. Great,
yeah,
that's cool. But you've got Protean, so you could unlock instead.
yeah,
You could play around the Mortal Grapple and always not get anything out of the combat. Or you can play Earthmeld or Form of Mist, in which the combat has benefited you by denying a blocker.
exactly.
So you lose out, and it's also not usable against an older vampire, which obviously for Stanny is not a problem, but it could be for some of the others. Uh, Disengage, bad card, right? I mean,
It's awful.
I believe it is in
But
the TWT.
it's been a
I have two
legitimate
decks on it.
suggestion.
It's I don't know. Like you play it if you're like in Finland and everyone plays Potence, right? But outside of Finland, I don't know why you play this. Like it's good against Finnish politics decks, which for those who aren't familiar with the term, it's just a running gag that the means of politics is albums rush you unless you do this, which this is great against. If you're playing in a room where everyone has fisty dudes, you run this engage. Fine, I get it, but it's a bad card. It's
Yeah,
it's a bad
and
card.
this is what I mean. Like all of these as well are situational as well. Like every card that you have in your hand, you want to be using
Mm.
to do the thing that your deck does. You know, like what we found over the years is that like we need like Stanislava needs to be voting, needs to be
Yeah,
bleeding. That's why it's called Stanislava Vote and Bleed.
yeah,
You can't plan on being blocked. Ultimately, like if you plan on being blocked, you're preparing to to fail,
yeah. You're on
which
a
is
business trip, and these are like leisure. You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's like it's a bit of fun, but we haven't got time for that.
yeah, exactly,
You got
exactly,
7 days of solid work. Get on it.
exactly. All right. Well, I do believe that like that's the end of the show, mate. What?
Sound?
Episode
Uh,
2?
That's the problem. I'm drinking this 10% beer, so I only brought the one over, but I've been without one for a while, so
It's done the job though.
yeah. So I've enjoyed chatting to you, but I'm glad I'm going to be able to go and get another one.
Well,
Not another one
precisely.
of
But
those. I only want
before
one
we
of them.
go, there's a couple of little things that you want us to be aware of that are upcoming.
Oh, right, yeah. So, yeah, for those of you that aren't aware, I'm the national coordinator for the UK. We're going to have, well, I actually can't find any record of a GP in the UK before. I apologize if there was one. I'm not familiar with it. I can't find anywhere. This may be the first UK GP, or it may just be the first one in 15 years or so. I don't know, but it's going to be happening May the 20th. Going to make a weekender of it. So May the 20th, the GP itself. We're doing it downstairs in this great restaurant called Chemo's. Private area all to ourselves. Plenty of space. Going to be good fun. Great food. Sunday, we're carrying on the bleeds. We're going to be doing a winner box event, so you can win a box of Sword of Cane, which is pretty cool. All about Black Hand Sabat vampires. A lot of cool multi-acting stuff. We've talked about cool multi-act is.
Oh,
Great
so
set.
so good.
Really fun.
Value Town.
Value Town population. Ooh. Uh, so the GP, I have got us a little trophy made, so whoever wins gets to take home this bad boy.
You have
Woo-hoo.
to turn it around for the camera though.
Yeah, I have. Look, because it's see through. Oh no, I've done it the wrong way again. Way, you know.
We
Whee!
Yeah, so the Liverpool Vampire the Eternal Struggle
Yeah,
trophy
nice
could be
little Liverpool
yours.
skyline.
But you'll have to get through me and PJ
Yeah, well,
to,
I,
to get to it.
I don't know whether I'll be playing because the running thing could be quite intense, but I'm
Well, I
hoping
mean,
to.
there's no excuses for them. Everyone knows exactly what I'm playing now. So
Yeah, I'm gonna try and sort something out so pairing will be a lot smoother. I'll probably take my printer down and just post the rounds up, so there's a lot less faffing for me to do on the
oh
day.
my
Which
gosh, it's just such a quality of life update. Is
is
a
yeah,
printer.
finding the tables is a bit it's quite messy because people are like, "What table am I on?" You're like, "You're on this table. You're on this seat. What table am I? You're on this
I've
thing."
just told you,
And then
mate,
they come
like
back to you
7
3 seconds
times.
later, and you're like, "Ah." So
Yeah,
if I can just make the information easy, it'll alleviate
yeah,
stuff, so I'll be able to play, which would be good. I'm just gonna play your deck. It looks all right. Play that.
yeah.
Got the
Well,
cards.
it does have a lot of Bobby Lemons.
Bobby Lemons, yeah, solid Bobby Lemon. Uh, so yeah, gonna make a weekend out of this thing. If you're all up for it, go for a few beers after as well, and I'll take you to some cool
Yeah,
pubs. Sunday will be at a different venue. We'll be at Dough Bar, which is our regular Monday spot. Fantastic pub in the city
great,
centre.
great venue. Yeah, yeah.
Didn't book it for the Saturday because it'll be full of students dancing. So would have been a little
Precisely.
disruptive. Uh, so yeah, it should be a great weekend. Hope to meet a lot of you guys there.
That'd be great. Great. So that is all for this episode of Lies from the Tabletop, a Vito's
Yeah,
podcast. It's been great having you on, Captain Thalco, to talk to us, bringing your
likewise.
expertise and your opinions about a deck that we've been working on for a while. Again, let us know what you think in the comments. Any improvements that you want us to make. You know, we will always strive to improve the podcast, but otherwise, just make yourself known. Like
Yeah,
let's start a little community. Yeah, but other than that, that is all from us. Have a great GP, hopefully coming up in the future. It'd be great to
yeah.
see you all there. And let us know in the comments what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you
See you in a
later.
few weeks.